And then you have other people who are fighting against those injustices, who are fighting against COVID disparities, who are fighting against police brutality. And those of us who are fighting against it are being anti-racist.
But it's disingenuous because they're only doing it because of they want the recognition.
And it's like, no one asked you to do that. You can go anywhere else and do it. So
silence is violence.
But sometimes you just have to step away from the limelight. Sorry, it's not about you.
Welcome back to the show. So glad that you found my backup to Anna's Thoughts and Musical Parodies here at Anna Speaks Out. Thanks for being here. So yesterday I was scrolling through YouTube looking for something to watch while I was nursing for what felt like the 100th time, and I happened upon this video about certain aspects of narcissism. And I've always been fascinated by, things like that, things about human psychology since as far back as I can remember, pretty much. So I checked it out, and I realized that this certain trait that the video, which I'm going to share with you, was talking about, made me think of the way that people who try to claim that everyone who doesn't agree with them are racist and who espouse critical race theory ideology, it seemed like the way that they often act. So I was inspired to put together a compilation of clips that illustrate that. Here it is.
Being born into a family headed by a narcissistic mother and a timid father who spent his life appeasing, excusing, and enabling her, double binds of various intensities were part of my early everyday life. One recurring double bind concerned my responses to her constant false accusations. Like many narcissists, she was acutely paranoid. Because of her paranoia, my brother and I were repeatedly accused of saying, doing, or even just thinking outlandish things we'd never said, done, or thought. She would charge us to tell the truth in front of her Christian God. When we truthfully reported our innocence, she'd triumphantly call us liars. She'd often tell us we were physically turning green with guilt. She had unshakable conviction that she was right. And no-win choice was to make a false confession and get punished for a non-existent offense, or tell the truth and suffer even more abuse for lying. The double message was be truthful and don't be truthful.
Excuse me, I have friends/family/dated someone of that race. Who you're friends with, related to, or in a relationship with doesn't keep you from being responsible for your actions. If you say or do something racist, you have to deal with the consequence.
Ibram X. Kendi is a professor and founding director of the Anti-Racist Research and Policy Center at the American University. It was just announced that he is joining Boston University to launch the BU Center for Anti-Racist Research. He's also a best-selling author and National Book Award winner, and his new book, Anti-Racist Baby, comes out June 16th. And, I issued a commentary a couple weeks ago to say, look, it's not enough to not be a racist. You have to be an anti-racist. And I was shocked at the amount of pushback I got from this, that if I'm not a racist, why should I be made to feel guilty for not being a racist?
To do nothing in the face of racial inequity, to do nothing in the face of persistent Black death, is to allow that to continue, is to be racist. Yeah, and I think what this comes down to is it's obvious that Black people are disproportionately dying of police violence. So then the question becomes, what or who is to blame? Are Black people to blame? Are they reckless with the police? Should they not be resisting arrest? Is there something wrong with Black people that other racial groups are not doing? Or is there something wrong with American policing? Or is there racism pervading American policing? And those Americans who just refuse to recognize how persistent and pervasive racism is within this country, of course, the only other alternative is to blame Black people.
Talk to me about what the first step is, other than buying your book. The first step is in learning what the distinction is between anti-racist and not being racist. And how do those of us who are not racist become anti-racist?
The heartbeat of racism is denial. And so the first step is to admit to acknowledge one's own racist ideas, to acknowledge those times in which we were being racist, so that we can then begin transforming ourselves and transforming this country.
I want to explore a particularly poisonous mind game called the double bind, which puts people in no-win situations. A no-win manipulation could be defined as the act of putting targets in situations where all actions lead to a negative outcome. An example would be what's called a Kafka trap. In Kafka traps, targets are accused typically of some psychological flaw. When they deny the accusation, their denial is taken as evidence that the accusation is true. A double bind is a very specific kind of no-win manipulation in which targets are presented with conflicting messages, each of which negates the other. In effect, they're told, do X and don't do X.
Please don't tell me your lives matter, all your arguments are weak. No, that'd be wrong. Feel like this been going on for way too long. Of course we gon' be fired up, we tired of seeing people have to fight for help. We cried enough, oh yeah. Silent, don't be silent. If you are, you just as violent.
I don't want to immediately cut off contact with every person who disagrees with me, because then you don't learn anything that way. However, especially today, especially right now, with the way the world is, if you don't vote, or you vote for Donald Trump because him being in office doesn't affect you, that is an act of violence against people who it does affect.
I want to go to an African orphanage so bad. So bad for what? Going to South Africa for 10 weeks on April to do volunteer/conservation work to help fix my mental health. This is weird. This is weird.
What do you think a white saviour is?
Ugh.
Look how great I am. Here I am in Africa doing a great job.
It's almost like they want to come to the rescue of the black man, but it's disingenuous because they're only doing it because they want the recognition.
And it's like, no one asked you to do that. You could go anywhere else and do it. So
the world today is literally debating against and for the validity of some people's existence, the validity of some people's lived experience. And if you don't vote, or you don't say that you are political, if you say, oh, I don't really pay attention to it, it doesn't really matter to me, that is violence. Silence is violence.
But sometimes you just have to step away from the limelight. Sorry, it's not about you. White saviors aren't going to save us. In fact, white savior complex is a symptom of white supremacy. And before you jump in to tell me, that wasn't me, that was hundreds of years ago, today's privileged white Westerners are still the beneficiary of all of the awful things that make life intolerable for everyone else, whether they were done 300 years ago or last Tuesday.
Thank you again so much for being here today. Since you liked the video enough to make it all the way to the end, don't forget to click the thumbs up and share with other people who would also enjoy. Leave your comments below and we'll all have a conversation. If you really enjoyed, check out the description for several different ways that you can support. Have a wonderful night, afternoon, morning, evening, whatever time zone you are in. And I will see you next time. Bye.